Okay, good.
Hello. All right. Happy Friday, Thursday, Saturday, whatever day it is at this point. I'm Christina Bloem, and today we're making apple turnovers. So I started whipping out some apple turnovers a couple of weeks ago, and our sweet neighbors next door are like, "So, you making any more of those?" And I thought, this is so easy. Even if you have kids at home, you can totally knock this out. Now, let's have a quick discussion about what's in your pantry and looking at recipes. Because it's really easy to look at a recipe and just freak out, right? To think that I don't have that, I don't know if I can get that, I'm scared to go to the grocery store. Deep breath. These are very forgiving. We can do one of three things. We're going to use puff pastry today because I have a load of it in the freezer. So it's just easy stuff for me to work with. If you take a look, you might have some too, because it's one of those ingredients that you buy and then you just kind of stick in your freezer and you ignore it for 2 years. So if you've got puff pastry like I do, terrific. Roll out pie crusts. You know those cheater pie crusts that you buy that come in like a roll form. You unroll them out and then press them in your pie pan. We're not going to press them in the pie pan. We're going to cut them and just use that pie dough. Or if you don't want to do that option, you can just make a really basic pie crust. Pie crust is basically shortening or butter, some kind of fat, flour, maybe a little bit of salt. It's super basic stuff. You can find one, I promise. I'll see if I can pop one up on the Kitchen Studio Facebook page. Chef Caroline, who does all of our pastry and baking, has literally my mother's pie crust, and it's awesome. So I'll see if I can pop that up on our Facebook page today when I'm done with this. But in the meantime, let's talk about what we're doing. I just started getting Hungry Harvest. I don't know if you guys have heard of that. I am super thrilled with it. And they bring kind of seconds and vegetables and fruits and all of that. So I got some apples from there. And let me tell you, these were more like the reject, not as pretty sort of apples that you're going to get, but they're terrific. They work for exactly what we need. If you don't have apples, what do you have? If you have blueberries, great, we'll use those. We'll skip the sauteing. If you have strawberries, awesome. What do you have? I'm really excited to do this with peaches. I'm ready for peaches, but gotta wait a couple months. So it's kind of, what do you have? If you have a fruit, we'll hit it with a little extra cornstarch to help thicken it up. But we'll talk about that when we get there. So basically, don't freak out. It's gonna be okay. All right, so here's what we're going to do. And I've got Anna help me. This has become quite the production here in the Van Bloem household. But Anna is helping me and John is there. So if you have any questions on anything, ask John or put it up on the Facebook page and John will tell me and we'll take it from there. So check this out. I peeled my apples ahead of time and I put them in acidulated water. It's just a fancy way to say I squeeze the lemon into the water because I hate it when my apples go all brown and ooky, right? So that keeps them from going. Now I'm going to cut this apple that I peeled. With apples, you should peel them, but one of the things I like to do is cut around the core. My husband John actually taught me how to do that a million years ago. Munchie's here, he loves apples. All right, so I always give myself the flat side. We'll get that going. You can tell I'm very particular here. But we're going to dice the apple. That's going to be better, of course. If you have strawberries, I slice them. Blueberries, leave them whole. I actually made the most delightful blueberry syrup this week. We put it in a cocktail last night. John was not a fan, but I had 2 of them.
Jeff McCubbin says that she loves the videos.
Oh, thank you so much. You're awesome. I appreciate it. All right. So if you have to wait, like if you're going to wait a little bit to get going, or if you want to have the kiddos help, definitely get something acidic in the water for you. All right. So we're going to start with our apples first. and then I'll take you over and show you how to do the puff pastry. But we're gonna, now if I was getting really fancy and technical here, I would pull my apples out and I would lay them on a towel and I would pat them dry. And it's quarantine cooking, right? We want it to be delicious. It doesn't have to look perfect. All right. Has anybody been cooking anything fantastic? I would love to know. I made a lasagna yesterday. Totally, I didn't have to can the tomatoes or anything, but or kill the cow. But I made the pasta and I made the ricotta, and I was feeling very proud of myself. I also made about 100 million dishes that Anna and John cleaned up for me. All right, so now, ooh, a little extra piece of delicious. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. While we go over and talk pastry, I'm gonna let these apples cook a little bit. I put a nice lump of butter in there. Yes, I like butter because we're basically gonna make kind of a caramel to go with it, if that makes sense. So the butter is gonna help us there. If you are not using animal products, you can go ahead and try like an balance or something like that. Oh, and somebody asked me last night, Linda, who's one of the nicest people in the whole world, when I told her that I was going to be doing this today, she asked if there was a gluten-free option. Because I know a lot of you, and good for you, keeping it all going. But I know a lot of you are doing gluten-free stuff. If you get a gluten-free flour, first of all, if there's a gluten-free roll-out pie crust, you're in like Flynn. You're totally good. If you don't have one like that, make your own. And I like the 1-to-1 flours. I think King Arthur has one called 1-to-1, but that tends to be pretty good. So you can just make your basic pie crust using that. We're not going for a lot of gluten formation here, so I think you're gonna be okay. So I'm gonna let those simmer. Come on over and let's talk pastry. All right. So this is the funniest thing. I've had this sheet of puff pastry, and when I get them, they are this big. They're huge, right? Because that's the commercial size. When you get them, they're going to be about 2/3 that size. From a sheet of puff pastry, you're going to get 6, maybe 8 turnovers. It depends what size you want them to be. I cut the sheet in half, but this is the funniest thing. You keep it in the freezer, you store it in the freezer because puff pastry is all butter, baby. It is all butter. It's layers of butter with layers of dough. Microscopic, really cool, nice stuff. You can't take your scraps and redo them, right? You got to keep it frozen until about half an hour before you're ready to use it. So I had this massive sheet of puff pastry in my freezer, and last night that sucker cracked right into not quite half, and I was like, of all the days for this to happen, and it's been in there for weeks. So come on in, I just want to show you this now. So if you can see my Frankenstein lines on my puff pastry. If you get puff pastry, you can kind of push it together, and with the stuff you're going to get at the grocery store, once it thaws out enough that you can handle it, it's going to be folded into 3. You'll unfold it. Now you'll see you have some seams running. No problem. You can give them a little pinch if you want to reinforce them. But we're not going to do too much rolling out here, especially because this is all crazy now. But these will be for my family. I'll give our nice neighbors the good ones. All right. So just pinch it back together. You're totally good. Here's what this looks like. Munchie's very interested all of a sudden. Okay, simple stuff. If it gets much more than this, it's going to be really hard to work with and use. So I'm going to take this. I'm going to roughly cut it.
Kathy Sweet says hi.
Hey, Kathy Sweet. She's so nice. She works at Bach & Associates. They are the nicest people in the world over there. They came in for a team building this winter before the world ended. All right. Now, if you have a little bit of flour, if you need a little bit of flour, I have to say I kind of love my wood countertops. I didn't know how much I would like them or if it would only be aesthetic, but I love them. All right. Now, if you want triangles, if you want them to be like this, totally cool, do what you do. My family, when I made these the first time, they said, do you guys remember what you wanted?
Rectangle.
McDonald's. They literally told me they wanted McDonald's apple turnovers. There's been a serious McDonald's craving in this house. I know, it's so disturbing. All right, so I'm just gonna make these a little bit bigger. But like I said, don't try to fold them back in on themselves. Won't work. All right, there we go. Love it. And I personally think if you do the rectangles, it's a little easier to match it up. For the life of me, I can't do a square. Alrighty. So check this out. Here are apples. We're going to turn them up a little. Of course, they gave off a little water. That's all right. Kathy Sweet is actually quite a good baker. She does a lot of cakes. I mean, with her last name. She's got it, right? All right, so I'm going to turn the heat up on this, but now we're going to add some things to it. I'm going to add in a very precise measurement of some brown sugar. Okay, now if you don't have brown sugar, use some white sugar. That's fine, I don't care. Whatever you have, this is going to kind of melt with the butter to make it a little caramely.
Half a cup.
There's a recipe. We have a recipe, and the news post is going to put it up on their website.
What if my apples are getting a bit old? Is there any way to sweeten them back up?
Oh my gosh, this is a perfect way to use it. This is a perfect way to do it. Yeah, add a little extra sugar. And taste this, not when it's screaming, scorching, terribly hot, but when you're ready, taste it. Like this is, old fruit is made for turnovers, right? Because nobody cares what it looks like. Like I said, these apples were not beauty queens. These were more, you know, the ones still learning to do their hair. So these were, their peels, like I have a pretty apple, so I didn't use that one. I used the really ugly ones. So if your fruit is going, now the one thing I wouldn't do are banana turnovers. You could if you really just barely ripe bananas. And John cooks nothing. But bananas, just make banana bread. I'm going to make some later this afternoon because I have bananas going south. All right, so check this out. I'm going to add just a little bit of vanilla. That was probably half a teaspoon. And that was just because I was feeling myself with vanilla. And I'm going to add a little tiny pinch of salt because I always add a little tiny pinch of salt. It just makes it yummier, right? And then I'm just going to do a little cinnamon. If you wanted to get fancy, if you're like, oh, I'm going to make these so great, these are going to be my signature. What if you started playing with some herbs in your garden, if you have any herbs, or if you have a nice neighbor who has some herbs, why don't you start playing with that a little bit, right? So you could, oh gosh, last night we did blueberry and mint. I think blueberry and rosemary could be good, but I didn't try it yet. So what if you did apples with a little bit of thyme? If you're going for something kind of posh, right? For your older friends, for your more mature kids, if you put herbs in it, they're going to lose their minds. Not in a good way.
Kathy Sweet is watching with her 9-year-old daughter, Leona.
Oh, I think it's her granddaughter. I think it's her granddaughter. I love that. All right, so now moving things along this morning, I'm going to take a scooch of corn syrup. Excuse me, cornstarch. And you have to, when you use cornstarch, because cornstarch is a thickener, have you guys ever made, it's not the slime. Did they use cornstarch for slime? I don't think so. But gack, I remember the kids in elementary school made gack, and it could be a liquid and a solid, which was so cool. So check this out. Oh, that smells good, right? John's excited because he knows this means he'll get apple turnovers with leftover lasagna for lunch. All right, so if you take a look, whenever you do this, it's really important to use cold water. If you use hot water to try to dissolve it, it's going to clump up and get really gross. And this will just give it, and I'm hardly using any, I'm just trying to give it a little love, right? A little binding, because I don't want it to get all, I just don't want it to run out if I can avoid it. There we go. Ooh, that's so pretty. All right, now, the thing to do, oh, see, Anna, I love your camera work, bud. All right, so I'm going to leave this here because this is a little too hot for me to work with right now, but I have a little over here. Come on over, and I'll show you what I'm going to do. All right, so I've got it's funny, Anna is stepping over the dog. The dog is backing up. Food Network, wing. Okay, so we've got our triangle, and this is what you're going to end up. Okay, so I'm going to take some of this, pop it in. Now, trust me, I love it so much. I'm saying to you, less is more. And I'm going to tell you right now, in my family, we are not people known for moderation in anything, okay? But we're going to you don't want it to squish out. It's kind of like if you're making ravioli, something like that. Anything that's stuffed. We make down at the kitchen studio, we do a lot of, I love veggie dumplings.
What are you putting on that right now?
Okay, so this is an egg wash. 1 egg, a little bit, maybe a tablespoon of cold water. Thank you, John. He's so good. Teachers are so good. All right, so check it out. I've got glue. This is my glue to keep everything together. And then we're just going to alley-oop it. Now, that egg wash is going to help everything stay together. But you're going to give it a little help. Now, if you've got littles who you're working with, they are 100% going to try to squish that into the countertop the best that they can. A light touch is a little better, but it's a turnover. Let them squish. Who cares? All right. So I go around the 3 sides that are open. And then I'm going to lay it here. Now, I always call egg wash suntan lotion for your food, because this is what's going to give it the pretty, right? This is what gives it that golden brown. Show my age calling it suntan lotion, right? Instead of sunscreen or sunblock. Now, ready to go. Here's the only thing. I do like to snip a couple of little vents, a la McDonald's, right, into my turnover, just so if there's any steam, that'll come out. One more thing. And this is really important. When she's pulling the towels down. When you use puff pastry, all right, I had a little leak. Panic not. Stay there, Anna. Look at, oh my gosh, that's hilarious. All right, I'm gonna show you these. Show them that one. Awesome. All right, so check it out. So, sorry, baby. So, when you use puff pastry, it has got to go into a hot oven. You can't use a 350 oven. If you're doing, it's hilarious. We're gonna show you this in a second. If you're doing pie dough, I go in a 375 oven. And a pie dough, you can re-roll it, redo your scraps. This, the way it puffs is the heat hits it, the steam, the water in it turns to steam, and that's what gives it puff. A medium oven, a 350 oven, 375 isn't going to work. Also, I like my oven to get hot for a good half hour before I go. Now, when I use this little top oven, I have a double oven, like in one. It's really close to the burner, to the element. So I knew I was risking it going today, but look at this, just so you can see. Look at the tart is totally good, but look at the mess that made. So check it out. Do not eat that. But here's the thing. This is why she's so pretty. This is why I always want to line it with parchment or foil. If you do foil, maybe give it a quick little spray with some cooking spray, but something to catch. Whenever I'm working with hot sugar, I always want it to catch because cleaning hot sugar off a pan, nightmare. All right. So News Post is popping this up online. We'll be back next week. Let us know if there's something you want to see us do. And we are starting to offer online classes at Kitchen Studio, which we are super stoked about. We're going to do a Mother's Day brunch class. We'll send you the list, everything you need. We'll work it through. It's going to be an interactive class where we're all cooking at the same time. You can find that on our website at kitchenstudiofrederick.com or on our Facebook page. So, turnovers, just like the Dutch baby, send me pictures of your turnovers. I love seeing I'm still getting Dutch baby pictures. So send me turnovers, ask me questions. You can always hit me up on the Kitchen Studio page and I'll answer any questions you have. Just make something yummy this weekend. That's all I've got. I'll see you next week. Thanks.